How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This Jaylen Green video was partly inspired by a reply I got to one of my tweets. I tweeted this pass that Jaylen Green had last season. I was getting clips for a Jabari Smith article for work, and I'm like, oh my god, Jaylen Green cutting in, wrapping it behind the back, immediately processes the floor. It's like, wow, this is great. And someone replied like, he has one or two passes a game, where it's like, this guy can really pass. And that is one of the most true things I've ever seen. Entering year 4, pretty critical junction for Jaylen Green. So let's kind of break his game down, talk about where he stands. And then the central question of this video is how much of his late season scoring explosion was real? All of these clips are going to be from the late season stuff, the March, April games. So subscribe, comment, like, all of that stuff. And I did a video on Jaylen Green, like, the beginning of his second year, where I was mostly optimistic, and unfortunately it's a lot of the same for him, but some of the playmaking flashes are truly tantalizing. Green here ripping a spinning pocket pass, tight window, lead bounce to Amen Thompson, like perfect placement here. He's not just putting it right here, he's leading it to this open space in a tight window for Amen to go draw a foul. That's a really, really good pass, and Green is extremely skilled, and the way that he can pass with both hands off of a live dribble, you see him throwing this lefty pass inside to Amen here. Wins off the dribble. Oh my god, tight window. Just that is a thread the needle type play that once or twice a game you watch Jaylen Green and it's like, why is he not doing this more? And you see Jaylen Green blending his playmaking with his driving game, where Green's able to beat Garland off the dribble here, draw Allen, wrap it down to Thompson again, who ends up finishing an easy and one. This is the Jaylen Green that we thought he could become out of the draft, someone who's consistently creating easy paint touches, and then by way of that, easy offense for himself and for his teammates. There are these real flashes where Green can read help defenses and react to what's in front of him and make plays off of his drives. Like, this is something we see, and I would definitely say Green is better than he once was at these easier pick and roll reads. Defense is double teaming or showing two at Jaylen Green, simply hits Jeff Green in the open space, who ends up rolling for an easy layup. Green is capable of making these basic reads, but for every one or two of those, there is a play like this where Green is just kind of messing around and throws a pass that has you wondering what he was seeing, as Green works himself into kind of a tough spot here. Exum plays great defense, and I guess I kind of see the vision here, trying to wrap it around, but even if he gets this pass through to Landale, Exum is right there to defend. There's so much traffic. It's not a great decision, and really, unfortunately, the decision making, even in this late season stretch where he was playing a lot better, wasn't that great, which is unfortunate, honestly, because I do think that some of the translation people were hoping for is like, okay, can he keep this up? But there's still just stuff like this late in the game, down 5 with 50 seconds left, trying to set up like a little play here, and Green just inexplicably throws this to Anthony Edwards, effectively giving away that game. Stuff that you don't want to see your third-year player doing that he's been doing since his rookie year. And Green definitely still struggles with pressure. It's too easy to send two to the ball because his handle isn't very controlled. And again, an issue that we've been talking about for years with Green is his flashes of being able to create with his handle are incredible, which we'll get to, but the consistency is not there. He's not able to consistently hold the ball against pressure and make things happen against defenses, even against, some pretty dog shit teams like this injured Wizards team late in the year, which we'll certainly get to. And really do want to pay attention to the competition level and the kind of teams and games where he was scoring against, and I don't want to discredit him fully. Like, he had 37 against this Thunder in this Thunder game, I believe. But even then, you saw some of the issues. Jalen Williams just ripping Jaylen Green easily. The ball control, it's something that a lot of players are able to fix, but the fact that Green hasn't made a ton of progression on it in his first couple years is definitely a tiny bit worrisome. He loves these splits, and when it works, really, really dynamic. But when it doesn't work, it doesn't look great. Like, he's not able to get through. He still plays way too fast, which we talked about in that last video from a couple years ago about Green starting to slow down a bit more. And though you do see that, it's still a lot of playing fast. And Green is still very young, right? He's still only like 22, 23. The physical, in terms of strength improvement, has not happened yet, where he still can't push back Jarrett Allen at all, loses the ball at bump. He's not very effective at the point of contact. He's not a very good player at the bump point, where he has to try to move Allen, does not work at all, ends up losing the ball here. Misses the three, ends up fortunately grabbing his own rebound and just slams into Johnny Davis. Cannot move him at all. And oh boy, Johnny Davis. But if there's one thing JD can do, it's he's like still pretty strong. Jaylen Green can't move him at all, throws up a really bad shot, can't draw a foul or anything, ends up grabbing his own offensive rebound, which is nice. I love that effort. And he still has these same issues where he'll like try to hang around defenders, and obviously he can do it. One of Green's improvements that we talked about, he is a lot more efficient in the restricted area, or he was last year, and especially during that stretch. But when he still like jumps from far out, try to scoop and contort over a defender, yes, he can do it because he's a freak athlete. But that doesn't mean he should try to do it as much as he does. And especially against some of these better defenses he played late in the season, it wasn't really as feasible. Green here going to get blocked by Chet as well. Some of the finishing struggles are still pretty concerning. Green, I wish he would play off of 2 feet more. I wish he would hold his handle a little bit deeper. It's like, yes, Green can elevate, hang in the air, and scoop against a lot of teams, but against the Thunder and Chet Holmgren, plays like that just aren't going to be as consistently available. So it still seems like Green is in his like try shit phase, where he's trying a lot of stuff, seeing what he can get away with, and even though he's still doing a lot of the stuff that he cannot really get away with at this point. But then you have stuff like this, where Green just explodes past Jaden McDaniels, meets Gobert in the air. Like, Green isn't necessarily strong, but when he can explode and just shoot himself out of a cannon like Evel Knievel, players can't really hang with him. And this is not an easy finish. This is not something that you should be living with consistently, but he wanted to dunk, switched hands in midair, hung and finished. The flashes with Green are still so tantalizing, maybe as much as any young guard in the league. In terms of another benefit that Green saw late in the season that was maybe like kind of Mickey Mousey, when Şengün went down, they played a lot of Amen Thompson and Jabari Smith at the 5, which really unlocked some of Green's offense. He's not a very good straight pick and roll player, and he's not a very good like off-ball mover type. And he just doesn't synergize as well with Şengün as he does in plays like this, where Van Vliet's going to set a little screen before a handoff, get Green moving downhill without the ball, and that's just too easy, right? Jaylen Green is at his best when he's not thinking too much, right? When he's just catching the ball in motion against a tilted defense, burning lively, scoring over Luka. He can attack decisively, use his awesome physical tools to score. And here's another great example of the Rockets' zoom action, getting Jaylen Green off ball. And by zoom, I just mean zoom, pistol, Chicago, all basically the same. Pin down into dribble handoff with the spaced floor. Green against a tilted defense, gets downhill, finishes strong right there. So some of these flashes, while I think were encouraging, it's like, I don't know how much the Rockets are going to do that next year. Are they going to let Green operate in this kind of 5-out situation? And when you see the splits work, oh my goodness, as we talked about earlier, there were a couple failed splits early in this video, but quickly navigates, explodes off of 2 feet, goes through J-Dub. You can see what happens when he jumps off of 2 rather than 1. He's so damn explosive off of 2 feet, and he can actually like control himself and take some contact in midair, versus when he jumps off of 1 foot, a lot of the times he just isn't able to maintain that kind of control. Beautiful little off-foot scoop here. These flashes of footwork are great, right? The off-foot right-hand scoop to beat out Chet's block. Not consistent at all, which is the issue for a guy going into his 4th year. But these flashes are still really incredible. Look at the explosion on this Euro step right here. Green working his way downhill in a straight pick and roll kind of drop situation. Jalen Williams has no chance. Absolutely no chance. And I do think, like, once again, noting the competition, Jalen Williams, not exactly the best drop big in the league. Probably one of the lower level drop bigs in the league that actually plays regular rotation minutes. But here we have Lou Dort and Josh Giddey. Green splits and just annihilates that. The rim hangs in the air late in overtime in this game. When Green can really get a runway, it's really difficult to stop him going downhill. And late in the season, Houston was a lot better at manufacturing those runways than they were early in the season. But I do want us to pay close attention to the defenders in this situation. Like, I think he had like a 40 ball or something crazy against this Wizards team. Justin Champagnie guarding the ball. Not an NBA guy, probably. Good job rejecting. And then Corey Kispert defending the rim, which is like, Corey Kispert's a good player, but Jaylen Green should be able to score over mid-athletic two guards at the rim. And even then, it takes a really difficult, like, twisting scoop layup to finish. I don't love how difficult it still looks against these worse defenses. That's a bit concerning to me. And, like, okay, Jaylen Green beat Corey Kispert in drop. Wow. The Wizards don't have a real center on the floor. Like, they don't have a big on the floor. Of course, Jaylen Green can turn the corner on Jules Bernard and Corey Kispert. No shade to those guys, but that is just not the strength of their game. So some of this stuff is like, this is why people say, oh, Mickey Mouse March, right? That some of the production late in the season isn't real because of the quality of opponent and matchups and the level of checked outness. But we have seen throughout this video that there is some real stuff, and his shot making and his shot creation is always so real. Green's ability to hit the breaks, decelerate, create space off the dribble against Aaron Wiggins, like, I feel like becoming an elite shooter will be the easiest way for Green. As he had a great shooting projection coming out, but just has never been able to be a super efficient shooter. And once again, we have this quick off-ball action. It's not a long isolation or anything. Aaron Holiday initiates, pitches back to Green, who gets a quick screen. LeVert goes under, Green pulls up. It's simple, it's easy, he's not overthinking, and I do think Green really needs this. I love this off-ball work that they do. This is one of my favorite little series that the Rockets ran late in the season with Amen at the top of the key as kind of like a split initiator. Van Vliet setting screens for Jaylen Green and vice versa. He can work downhill and score against John Collins there. Then later in that same game, similar play, but Green ends up rising up for a three, and that's a great shot by Green, but is able to get an easy look because the Van Vliet screen and the Amen pitch is going to create him an easy look. So this is something where, again, I don't know if they're going to replicate this with Şengün, but I hope they do, because I think Green is at his best in the 5-out, working downhill off of handoffs. That's where Green is at his best, where he doesn't think as much, where he's not probably like freaking out about what to do. And oh my goodness, this nasty space creation. Again, against players who I don't really think are NBA caliber defenders, but nonetheless, Jaylen Green does this against NBA players too. Like, this is the one thing that he's always been great at. The shots don't always go in, and the shot selection isn't perfect, but Green's ability to create space for his own jumpers off the dribble by decelerating, changing speeds quickly is pretty phenomenal. But Green just doesn't take the smartest shots still. Like, early in the shot clock against a slow-ass Gordon Hayward, like, go to the rim here, pass to Fred Van Vliet, Amen setting a pin down, do something other than a long 20-footer that's contested, right? So, obviously, like, late in the season, but this is the stuff against good teams, against good defenses. Can we trust Jaylen Green to have the ball in his hands? And a lot of the times at the end of this videos, I'll have, like, a big conclusion or, like, here's what I think we're taking away. But really, I don't know the answer, and I don't think the Rockets do either. It's like, how much can we cut out these kind of dumb tendency shots that Green has always struggled with? But, man, the creation is so tantalizing. His ability to, again, one more time here, stop on a dime, spin back, like, oh my goodness. This stuff I'm fine with. I'm totally fine with Jaylen Green, like, actually working to create space and get efficient shots for himself. Like, that to me is a totally different thing than taking a totally contested pull-up against Gordon Hayward. It reflects this lack of improvement as well, where I remember pointing out earlier in his career, like, oh, there's a little bit more intermediate floater range stuff, but his shot profile has basically been the same throughout his entire career, right? Like, we can see this is very similar, the efficiency from everywhere, except for the 0 to 3. It's good that it got back up, but just not efficient at all from, like, the floater intermediate range. hasn't turned himself into an above average shooter, and as such hasn't been able to maintain even close to above league average efficiency. So can Green take the next step next year? I don't really know. I think it's generally good to be patient with young players, and I think Green is far from a finished product, but for a Rockets team that is looking to make a playoff push this year and has so much young talent, where you can't necessarily cater everything to Green as much as you want. And that's the trouble with a player like Green. As talented as he is, I think you do have to cater the offense and the team to him to some extent. And of course, he's not a good defender. Defense has always been an issue. It'll probably always been an issue. And Green has the offensive potential to make that not matter as much, to be a legit secondary type initiator. But the extent that you have to cater that to him, you can't just like let Green play off ball, play within the flow of the offense consistently, at least not yet. And the fact that he's not a super synergistic fit with Şengün is a little worrisome to me, even though it seems like he and Amen have some pretty good chemistry. But Amen has good chemistry with everyone. He's just a brilliant player. But I feel like I've been asking myself this question for 5 years. Can Jaylen Green turn these flashes into consistent positive impact? We saw some of that late in the season. TBD on how real it is. I think there were moments against OKC and against like Dallas and Minnesota where he was really effective, but so much of his great moments came against like the Utahs, the Portlands, the Washingtons of the world, where I'm not super confident in betting that going forward. But let me know what you think. Are you still totally in on the Jaylen Green train? Are you totally out on Jaylen Green? I know Rockets fans in general are like very divided on the whole Jaylen Green thing, but let me know what you think and what kind of videos you want to see next.